We have a hospital organization, we have a pharma company, we have a petrochemical company, a car company, and a blend of consumer electronics and healthcare and technology company. And we also have a client in a sense, Rob Flaherty, from let's call it a professional services company. So a real nice mix. Thank you all very much for being here, and really hope to make this as interactive as possible in the sense that feel free to jump in and comment on somebody else's question, and let's really just have a conversation, if you will, over the next half hour or so. And I'm going to, if imitation is the finest form of flattery, I want to flatter you, Jodi, by basically picking up on one of your slides yesterday, where you said, I want to sit at the adults' table. I don't want to be at the kids' table anymore. I want to be at the adults' table. And I guess my question to all of you is, like, what's the problem in getting there? In other words, what's the biggest barrier? I'm going to use, again, Jodi, a little of your language. If we think of measurement as something that unleashes the value of communications in terms of driving business performance, what's preventing, or what is measurement not doing? What's the barrier in terms of making that interaction happen, and how would you solve that barrier? What does this room need to do different? Am I clear on the question? Yeah? Do you want to just, we'll start with you, Eileen, and come across? And
I'm thrilled to be here, and I've learned so much in the last couple of days. And I think one of the barriers is education and helping us understand what we don't know. And, I'm going to be reaching out a lot more to learn more, and I think that's a big part of it.
Eileen, when you say education, it's a real easy answer in a sense. We go, yeah, we all need to get educated. So who needs to get educated? What do you need to get educated about?
Well, I think part of it is, my CEO has never asked me to measure more. So right there, he thinks we do a great job just because we get a lot of media. We have PR by the pound. We have a ton of media coverage. I think some of my education and my desire is self-inflicted. So I want to learn, and I want to use that other side of my brain that I don't think it's dusty up there, but really start to get out there. I have a great relationship. I appreciated John's presentation this morning because I have a great relationship with our CEO. I've really developed a good relationship over many years with him, and he does have my ear and I have his ear, but this is taking it to the next step that we're never pushed to do it. So I think starting with educating me, Rob, your presentation this morning, I need to educate my staff so they think about this a little differently, do a little retraining, and then I think taking it to the leadership and feeling comfortable that I know what I'm talking about before I go to them and say we need to do more of this. So reaching out to folks like you and say, let's have lunch, help me understand what we're not doing. I think I'll be doing that to David a lot more.
All right. John?
Wow. I was just talking before we started with a colleague, and he quoted at me something Harold Burson had been saying. And everything that Harold says pretty much is fine by me. He's a wise man, a very wise man. And he said one of the values, one of the benefits of a communications person is that they can come in from the outside, and they're the ones who say, ooh, hang on, be careful. That's dangerous. That's not going to work. Control it. I think your question, why aren't we there, or what should change to get us there? I don't want to be there, and nothing should change us. Harvard Business School, as I said before, does not teach communications. We do not come up from the factory floor. Maybe some do. We come in at one point from the outside from an agency, or we were a comms junior, or we worked in government. We are a tribe. We are a group. We are a Freemasonry. And we offer our talents and skills to the company that needs us. And I like being trusted by the CEO. I like the private conversations. I like, hey, John, what do you think? I really do not want to sit for 4 hours every week hearing about HR problems, in Mexico, and R&D investment decisions in Scotland, and everything else that a board has to discuss. A, I would be bored of the board. B, my effectiveness would diminish because I'm not good at all that stuff. And C, it's not what we're for. You might as well ask, do you want to be a seagull, and what stops us being one? I don't want to be a seagull.
I guess I want to fly as a seagull. I do want to be in those meetings. And the reason why I do is, yes, they are time consuming, and yes, my expertise may not be in HR or other things, but for me to be sure that we are working on the right activities, that we are developing the right strategies that are really going to have impact. I need to have the context about what the problem is, what's the challenge, who's the audience, why do they feel a certain way, and those meetings can get the start of that dialogue, but certainly need to be following back with the subject matter experts. As far as what I need and what I could do, I know yesterday, for those of you who saw my presentation, I was a whiny, needy girlfriend, and I went on and on about the things that I need, but at the end of the day, I need to be able to say, so what, and here's why this matters. Here's why this is important. Share a voice, tone, nice things to have. But at the end of the day, if you're a CEO of the business, what does that mean to him or her? What difference does that make in the business? I think some of the challenges are the correlations that we try to make are such a big leap that it almost is a credibility discussion with our leaders. So I really need to find a way where we're saying, okay, we did this, this, and this, and not only were we able to increase purchasing or repurchasing, and this was something the comments that John was using, but why was it? Not just the number, but what drove that specifically? Because we want to repeat it, right? It's not, we just want to have a like the one-hit wonders, right? We really want to be able to repeat it. So we need to understand not only the what's on data, but the whys, and that will drive the inputs of our future strategies.
Well, let me explain just for 30 seconds about our country. In this country, when we go to the school, they ask us to learn, but we don't learn anything. I lost 20 years in my life in this country trying to learn something when my kids today, I decided bring them in the international school. My son is 8 years old, and he's able to analyze a problem and to explain the problem. Probably he doesn't know which is the solution, but he has the skills enough to explain me the problem. And I was learning very much for a long period of time, but I really don't learn anything. That means we have a problem of culture in this country. Suddenly one day we arrive to the table of the adults, and I'm now the communication director for Nissan Iberia. I'm taking the responsibility of corporate communication, internal communication, product communication, and from the 1st of June, social media communication. I'm so happy. I have a lot of tools to play and a lot of toys to play, but I still in executive committee. I am a member of this executive committee, and thanks God we have the measurement KPIs. I just start to do a very simple practice. Explain them those KPIs. And for the first time ever, they realize that there is a strategic function in our company, which is communication. And they start to learn a little bit how we manage our tools, our communication channels, and they start to understand now a little bit what that KPIs means in terms of business and how we can contribute to this business. Honestly, it's tough, but this is the way. We have to go to make a step ahead and say, hey, we are here as the marketing people or financial people or the legal department. It means we are one function more here to help you in running business. No? But it's regarding culture, again, it's a weakness we have in our educational system, honestly, and we have to be much more analytics from the very beginning and learn less probably, but to be more analytics.
Are you saying that to an extent that the people, and it sort of goes to one of Rob's slides, that a lot of the time the people who go into communications never really had they're educated almost, or they're fluent on the right side of their brain. In other words, in the creative, the cool stuff. And when, and sort of the left side, they never really got an education in the left side, so they're not even sure what's in the realm of the possible. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Absolutely. But sometimes some of us, we are the rear people, not the normal ones. Because since the very beginning, I started 22 years ago, and my first aim was to demonstrate how I contribute to the business. My difficult world was that those days it was impossible for us to do it because we just started in this world. It means it was really difficult. Today, thanks the digital communication, thanks the measurement tools we have, we are closely to the latest step how to demonstrate this contribution to the purchase funnel in the automotive industry at least. And we start really to use both sides of the brain for the PR service, no? and helping the company. But there are a lot of things to do, at least in Spain, in this field.
You want me to answer the same question again?
That'd be a good start, or
Okay.
take it wherever you'd like.
Because you asked me, to be honest, I find the whole discussion on being member of the C-suite quite irrelevant. Because I think we all here in a room, we all have our careers behind us, we all have a certain position. I think that is already a recognition that we do a job that is at least recognized and appreciated, either in a C-suite or not. I think my executive committee knows where to find me, when to find me, where to interact with me, how to involve me and my team when certain things need to be done that are a communication deployment of the strategic direction of the company. So, do I need to be in a room for that every 2 weeks? No. Because I know, and my network around the world know exactly what to do. Because we sit at least every week, we interact with each other, we have 2 planning meetings a year based on the strategic direction of the company, and my executive committee trusts that I will translate the objectives of the company in a communications strategy for the company. So then for me the whole discussion on C-suite or not is irrelevant. I like John's comment about art, because we tend to forget that indeed communications is a bit of an art. And during Rob's presentation, creativity came also to the surface. I think creativity, art is close to each other. What we should not forget is that what I think a communication professional 3.0, because that's also what we want to be, not only today, but also tomorrow we want to be in our job, we have to spend more time in thinking on the return on investment of our function. We have to demonstrate the added value, not of me as a person, but of the function, of the communication function. And we need to demonstrate to our business partners, up to the highest level, to the executive committee, what the company, or what the communications function actually is contributing to the function, to the company. And then I want to close my first remarks with, I felt a little bit worried with the final part of the discussion when Rob gave his presentation about PR firms teaming up. There's already a discussion going on for 15 years on measurement and the PR&C. They can get their act together. I think we should get our act together quite fast, because otherwise others will get their act together for us. If I see the slide of Rob, where IBM is acquiring companies on analytics in the last 2 or 3 years and spending billions on analytics company, if we don't team up together and come up with a common standard, then others will do it for us. And then we'll have to look at others. And then in 5 years' time, there will be an AMEC summit, probably organized by IBM. And we will listen to their standards. And I think so. Right. Everything is in our hands now. And I just talked to Arun and I said, if an advertising industry can get their act together, why should we not get our act together?
Mm-hmm. Rob, anything you wanted to add?
Well, is this on? This mic? The only thing I
can
would
hear you fine.
add is, what's that?
I said I could hear you fine, but yeah.
Good. Is some advice that I got a little while ago from Dave Sampson, who some of you know was the head of communications at Chevron. He used to work at Ketchum. He said, I think the best way to the C-suite is to not ask for a seat at that table, but to earn a seat at all the other tables. And so what he means by that is show the relevance of the communications function to HR, to IT, to finance, to legal, to government relations, to sales, to marketing and operations. Show that you have business acumen and that communications brings great value, hopefully backed by some metrics, to those functions. The respect for your function will go up significantly, and at some point someone's going to invite you into that room. But I really like that, you know, instead of always kind of clamoring to be in the boardroom or the executive committee room, just be of relevance to the entire enterprise. Show that you're a business person that understands all those functions. That's what, if I were a CCO, I'd aim my team at being relevant across the company that way.
I fully echo that. Fully echo that. I think that is absolutely crucial for our function.
So in terms of relevance, and maybe turning to you, Francesc, You know, when I saw your presentation this morning, one of the things, and you just mentioned it a second ago, as you were talking on your slides, we're talking about how your communications program and its measurement is focused on your purchase funnel, right? And Andre, I know your measurement includes Net Promoter Score in terms of media measurement. Is that, you know, part of the key to relevance, to, in other words, in some ways, talk the language of the rest of the company? Do we as communicators and measurers of communicators not talk the right language sometimes, which doesn't make us as relevant?
I hope I understand your question. It's not for your English, it's for my understanding. Sorry.
Pues
But
lo puedo hacer en español si quiere.
this is great.
Go ahead.
Well, I think what I present this morning is an exercise really just made it by our supplier Acceso and our company in Spain. What we try to approach is this path from the current situation of PR measurement tools, which are mostly quantitative, less qualitative, and based on output, not outcome, in order to see which are the attributes of our brand, analyze all of them in different media, in order to really understand if we are working in improving those attributes. And if we can demonstrate that we are working in PR, improving those attributes, we definitely are working to improve brand opinion. That means we impact in the purchase funnel. And why we want to demonstrate that? This is really personal. I don't want to go anymore to any other meeting of brand tracking quarterly. And my colleague from marketing explained to me that 97% of the purchase funnel is made by himself and his team, because that's not true. But including not including the rest of the percentages from PR, is the whole company who is working in the purchase funnel. And I don't understand why. It's the marketing people who's presenting tracking, brand trackings, and the rest of the organization wasn't there. It is incredible. The brand tracking meeting is just organized for the marketing guys and for the agencies. Where are the after-sales director?
Yeah.
Where is the sales director? Where is the dealer network development director? Where is my CEO? Where am I? It means it's not a question of marketing, it's a question of the whole organization, including HR. I answer your question? Not at all. No.
I think,
Can I do a build on
Please,
that, though?
Rob,
I
do
gotta
a
do,
build.
I gotta do a strong endorsement of that, though. You know, I have said in a number of blog posts, I think every CMO and CEO should have a sign in their office from the London Underground. You know, what's the sign in the London Underground? Mind the gap. I think that all CMOs and CEOs should mind the gap between what you say and what you do. And what it supports is the idea that somehow the communications function and the marketing function make the external promise of what the brand is going to be, but then not necessarily in alignment and coordinating with the people who actually deliver the brand. As you know, I sometimes ask CMOs, are you responsible for the delivery of the brand in the marketplace? Oh, definitely. The entire look and feel, the consistency, the experience, the walk in the store. I said, what about the people? Well, no, we're a franchise network, and so we don't touch that. And you know, I think that's a giant disconnect in our business, and a great chance for us to apply metrics, right? Because if you're applying metrics, you have to take the actual experience into consideration. And I know that Eileen's little organization over there does one heck of a job in that.
I am worried about the expectations we generate, and then the expectations doesn't match with the customer needs or the customer expectations itself. If they came to the dealership, where is the brand promise over there? There's no brand promise. Where is the innovation over there? There's no innovation. And I think it's because we have to work together as a team, as a cross-functional team.
No? Eileen, did you want to add, or?
The only thing is, you know, if you
Yeah.
talk about patient experience, it's just incredible.
Actually, we went through a little bit of that at the Cleveland Clinic. So we had such a wonderful reputation externally, but internally our patients weren't having the same experience. So our physician CEO, who's a heart surgeon, went to Harvard and presented a case in front of all the students. And one woman raised her hand and she said, Dr. Cosgrove, I took my dad who needed heart surgery to Mayo Clinic because I heard you don't teach empathy. Do you have any empathy? And here's a world-renowned heart surgeon who has technical expertise beyond belief. and didn't know what to say. I think he said, So he turned it around, and then he went to Saudi Arabia, and they opened a hospital, and the crown prince cut the ribbon, and he said, this hospital is here for the mind, body, and souls of our patients. And our doctor looked around, and everybody was crying, weeping. He said, uh-oh, I'm missing something. So he went back and hired the first chief patient experience officer. And we also then said, we can't have happy patients without happy employees. So we've done a whole culture focus on really aligning all of that. And it's helped communications a lot.
And it's very metric focused, right? This is a measured
Right.
exercise.
Yes. And it's tied to reimbursement in healthcare as well, so it's important.
One of the things I see in a fair number of my clients is they'll say, you know, we've got to get measurement in place. And I'll ask them the question, well, what do you already have in place? Like, do you have a brand tracker survey? And the client will go, I don't know. I think we do. And what we often will find is that the whole market intelligence, consumer insights, the owners of the measurement stuff are part of some other part of the company.
That's your point, yeah.
And they never connect with each other.
Yeah.
Is it true for all your organizations? Do you see it everywhere? I mean, I sort of think of these clients as sort of being very data rich and analytics incredibly poor.
I'll just take a quick second, then I'll pass it on. But we actually, our marketing team handles all of the analytics, and they do a lot of brand awareness focusing. Do you recognize the name of the hospital? We haven't done a good job at looking at measuring the reputation, but what we did find out is when they were asking patients, where have you heard of the Cleveland Clinic? And they said on television, they were marking it as advertising in a time we weren't even advertising. So we went in, I had to hire my own analyst, go in and look at the questions and said, okay, if it's on television, is it a news program or advertising? And 100% of the time it was a news program. So it completely shifted the way we were valued internally. And I thought that was just one little nugget of so much more opportunity that we don't even know it.
In Action Nobel, it's totally under my shop, which is useful, but we're brand new doing this. So I guess when we're successful, somebody will take it. But at this stage, we own it. Can I return to your Chief Patient Happiness Officer? Oh, that might be the canary down the mine shaft that says there's a real cultural problem. Because I think that your job, if I may say, you're the Chief Empathy Officer. You bring to the party when your leadership are behaving in a slightly dysfunctional or lacking in EQ kind of way. I think we have the responsibility, and I'd also say the platform and the power to say privately, we wouldn't do it publicly, what the hell are you doing? Did you not realize how badly that went down? You know, I think I'm just very keen to preserve our traditional space, if we're good at it, because it gives us so much power and influence that we can really be that, you know, the slide I showed this morning of the consigliere, the quiet word in the ear that doesn't embarrass anybody but can change things. When it becomes more overt and you realize the organization has no empathy, you know, then I think, well, at least you're fixing it.
And just to say, you know, it's actually a doctor who runs that program, and it's primarily for the physicians to make sure there's more consistency. We actually have very high levels of patient satisfaction, but I think it was just not enough. And to differentiate us and to be more competitive, I think there was a focus on doing it really, really well. And going beyond just communication with patients, but also we have greeters, we have dogs that come in and, you know, the kids can pet. I mean, it's a lot of different things. So it wasn't that it was so bad. Right. And the Chief Patient Experience Office his office is right next to mine, so we're partners and we work real closely together. So it's actually.
Just a quick response. All of the metrics related to this falls under corporate communications, and talking about the experience, SABIC, which is a petrochemical company based in Saudi Arabia, that's a global institution, recently, within the last year and a half, 2 years, launched a new brand. This is a company that's very, very well known in the Middle East, has no problem attracting talent, but even with that name recognition, people really didn't understand what we stand for. And so while some may think we really didn't need the brand in the Middle East, it was an opportunity for us to talk about that personality, that brand personality, and obviously, hopefully, to tell a more powerful story around the globe. To your point about the ownership of the customer experience, we have been doing training with employees about that, helping them to kind of connect the dots on what they're doing day to day and how that impacts the customer experience. I don't know if there's anyone from Starbucks here, but I like to tell the story, not to bring in potty talk, but I like to tell the story where years ago, Starbucks was looking to cut costs, and one of the areas they looked at was toilet paper, and to decide whether they wanted to stay at 3-ply or go to 2-ply because they could save money. And it was the example of they stayed with 3-ply because they viewed that as also a part of their customer experience. So helping people start to not only look at their job day to day, if I had to get this done, but what are the touch points that I have with not only customers, but other potential stakeholders, because it's not just customers, we want to experience the brand. But it's been very difficult because it's a very, for many people, it feels very esoteric. So what does that really mean? And I think metrics will certainly help, but I think we need to also find how to connect the dots on that we can demonstrate to employees it really is of great importance for them to live that brand day in and day out.
Anybody else? Andre?
Yeah, let me first react to John. And 80% of the time we agree, because we went through the same process with new CEOs. But I don't think that I, as leading the communication function, should also be the chief engagement officer. I think because that was a little bit your plea. I think engagement is not my responsibility, like reputation is not my responsibility. It's the responsibility of the whole company. Because I don't think that you also own customer service desk. And I think a patient officer like you have in your Cleveland clinic can be compared a little bit with a customer service desk manager, and which is not the responsibility of a communications officer. You asked the first question, David, how should metrics play a role in the business environment? And I think that's what we did when we developed our measurement system for external comms, is to use one of the overall metrics that was used in the company, which was indeed NPS, and translated NPS in our external comms measurement. And when we did it, that was the ultimate trick to get everybody on board from the business, because they knew immediately that we spoke the same language as the business does. So I think that was critical for us. And if we can find, as an industry, these kind of things, the sooner, the better, that would help us all a lot.
Thank you. You know, sometimes you hear, and Jodi, I heard it a little bit yesterday in your talk as the needy girlfriend, and actually we've talked about it on another occasion as well in Riyadh, where, you know, there's this search for the Holy Grail. And the Holy Grail being to be able to demonstrate the financial performance of communications fundamentally. And some of us would argue, and I think we've seen some cases in this conference and the workshops yesterday, that we already have the Holy Grail. We know what the Holy Grail is. It's just sometimes we don't have either the budget or the temerity or maybe enough courage to implement it. What do you all think? Have we found the Holy Grail? I mean, do we have the techniques that connect communications to the business you're in? And if we do, why aren't we implementing them more? Or do we not have them yet?
I think I gave my answer already. I think we don't have it yet. And what I see is that I see a room full of people who all have their own Holy Grail and compete with each other on the Holy Grail, offering the Holy Grail to different companies. And I think if we could come to an agreement that we have a common Holy Grail, which I still think does not exist, then I think that would be an enormous step ahead. But I don't think we have a Holy Grail yet.
Anybody else? John? Agree with Andre this time or not?
I agree with him 90% of the time. So I'm a little upset.
It's just when you're out of the Netherlands.
Yes and no. I think if the industry could align itself like, you know, advertising standards or any other professional marketing organization, that would be damn helpful. But of course, the difference would be in the practitioners that you could choose. But you know, at the risk of banging a drum until you're all bored to death with it, and it goes back to the chief empathy officer or the customer care. If you look at great companies, what do they have in common? Number one, a CEO that generally is empathetic, charismatic, and with a good touch of paranoia. but they have visions. And at lunch we were talking about Paul Polman at Unilever, and he's very interesting for two reasons. Number one, he's relatively new, and number two, Unilever was always the baby brother to Procter & Gamble. And over the last 4 or 5 years, you've seen that switch. Unilever has made a huge advance in reputation, mostly on the back of its sustainability positioning, but Paul Polman articulates a very strong personalized vision of what he wants from that company and from its management and its employees. He's authentic, it's a message easily understandable, and when you talk to Unilever folk, there's a tremendous amount of pride. So what I'm getting at really is that if you have a great company, it's a mixture of all sorts of different things, and that measurement will get you into the boardroom when needed and will help you with budgets and certain issues. But whether you're hiring people in or you're doing it yourself or it's not your responsibility, the bottom line is I think a communications chief is so beautifully placed if there is a partnership with a CEO to make a great company. We can have a lot of fun. And I think obsessing over other issues and you know, what colour is the leather seats on our car equivalent is really not very useful. As long as that damn car gets me to the destination, I don't mind. But good companies that last forever are happy, focused, well-led, engaged, happy places. And okay, I'm not responsible for the customer intimacy, but I am responsible for internal communications. And I have been charged with having a look at our culture. And if anybody knows where I can buy one, I'd like to know. I'm going to make sure over the next couple of years, with some good advisors and good help, and persuade my new guy that culture will make him look great. And if you can make that connection, they become very focused. So a little bit, but not everything.
Okay. Jodi?
Since I brought up the Holy Grail yesterday, with all due respect to the professionals in this room, I think we are far from the Holy Grail. I think there are metrics that are being used, and I'm being just really candid in the spirit of being helpful, that are nice to haves versus need to haves. I think that they're too difficult for our executives to make the leap and say, oh yes, I can see now how share of voice is really helping to drive sales in this particular area. And we've talked about the cost being a challenge of why some people may not be doing measurement. We've talked about simplicity. We've talked about some people maybe not understanding or staying in their comfort zone of more the traditional feel-good metrics, I like to call them. But I'm not saying we aspire to be in the C-suite, but I think that I want to earn a seat. I'm not looking for someone to give me anything. I want to earn a seat, but I just don't want to sit at the table. I want to be pulled to be part of the dialogue. And I don't want to just be reactive and brought in when a decision has been made with executives, because quite frankly, I think a lot of company decisions, there's a communications implication that can really create a lot of damage for a company's reputation. That needs to be considered. Someone needs to raise their hand and say, okay, understand where you want to go, but have you thought about this? And it's not that I'm going to necessarily win that debate, but it needs to be a consideration. And maybe the reward is far greater than that risk, but it has to be part of the dialogue. So I raised my hand yesterday. Some of you may not have been here, but I am happy as a client to work with any of you. And maybe there's a council that comes together, both of measurement and PR communications professionals. We work together on this. I think standards are absolutely essential. I will give as much time as you guys need, because I think it is a collaborative effort that we can use each other as sounding boards. But please, please, I need this. The house is on fire now, and I just can't wait anymore. Okay.
Well, you really got the needy girlfriend thing down. I swear, you really, you've nailed that. Francesc, did you want to add?
Very few. Yes, I think I agree with the whole opinions, honestly. I really believe we are closer to get those measurement tools much more than ever. I think this is the 5th summit, just the 5th one. It means we are young, but we run very fast, because from the beginning until now, we are closer to be as we want to be, I think. And now we have an incredible opportunity with the standards. Some of you talk about today the standards. Probably we need it. We need it sooner in order to agree all together as a professional level, which are the standards we need in the organizations in order to know if we perform well or not. And this will help us very much. But more than this, in my opinion, honestly, I believe the day I will succeed in my job will be the day when the sales guy asks me what is about opinion more than what is about how to generate traffic to the dealership. The day I receive from him this question, I think we will really achieve the goal of communication. When the rest of the guys in this table wants to talk with us in order to improve the business. This is the day I think we will succeed.
Eileen?
I think we have a lot of good tools, and there's a lot of good information out there. It's helped us really develop a much stronger strategy. We're one of the largest healthcare systems in the United States, and we have a lot of activity, including crisis communication. And one thing Rob mentioned earlier today that I was very intrigued with, but from a measurement standpoint, this is difficult, is, when we keep the Cleveland Clinic out of the news, and that's a really good day, and a lot of work goes into that, how do we measure the full value of communications, not just the good stuff or the stuff that drives sales or more patients to come here, but the whole bucket of it.
Great. Okay, we're just about out of time. I wanted to just ask you one last question. So Rob in his presentation, among other things, said, hey, we need to, as a community, and the community extending way beyond this room, adopt a set of standards. There's been a lot of work behind those standards. Some of them are done, some of them are almost done. And standards really referring to a set of terms, definitions, approaches of this is how you measure communications. How do you all feel about that? Do you think that's something we need to do as a community?
Yeah, well then let's make it happen. So then my offering is here. I have already 5 agencies. There's probably also 5 companies who want to join you. And there's probably 2 or 3 representatives from the measurement industry. Let's get together in a room, wherever, either in the US, Europe, or Asia, sit together and make the start of those standards. Instead of competing with each other, wait for each other, wait for others to come, and just make it happen.
Great. Anybody else? Francesc?
I already said, I think we need it.
You're good for it. Okay.
Just one comment. I mean, obviously I agree, and I'll have my help as well. I think one thing that I would add, though, is that when you think about one of the biggest barriers for a lot of folks about cost, if we were able to think about things in terms of standards and maybe make that more of a commoditized offering because it's already decided, hopefully bringing the cost down, and that would give the price of entry to be far more economical for a lot of companies. Maybe there's a 2-tier process, the beginners, maybe the advanced, whatever. There's a commoditized offering for both. And for those folks who do need customization, then comes the tailing, which is a differentiation you were talking about.
Yeah.
But right now, not only do I want standards, but if we can come and leverage those standards in a way to bring price down, I think you're going to have a lot more people who are saying, I want in.
Thank you very much, Andre, and everyone. We definitely need standards. They've already been written. I don't agree that there is any other holy grail out there. I don't think we need one. If I were a CCO or a CMO and you could give me brand tracking, net promoter score for customers, an employee pulse poll that was a smart version of it for internal, media measurement, earned measurement, social measurement that was outputs for every campaign we do, but outcomes for the major campaigns, because there'd be a little bit more of a spend, you would have everything you need to make our function a legitimate contributor to what's going on in the company, because then you'd correlate it to sales. The other holy grail is the attempt to correlate it to stock price. That's a standard that no other function of the company has ever achieved. We don't have to either, not even close. And the 100 versions that I've seen correlating PR to stock price are all BS. And I've done extensive analysis of it. You can go ahead and try and defend it, but they are, there's 1,000 variables that go into stock price, and mostly what the stock price is reflective of is not the longer term variables that we impact, but rather the very short-term, use of capital, cash flow, and margin over the course of a few quarters, not the important stuff that we work on, the longer-term stuff.
Great.
So I just want to, for the sake of clarity, throw that in.
Perfect. Let's have a big round for the client panel.